We'll be going through the heart of the most scenic territory of the Rhine between Bingen and Bacharach. We're going to be visiting the most scenic part of the River Rhine. This is the longest river in all of Europe, but the most scenic part is just a 40-mile stretch. Typical here, the castle of Marksberg up on the hill in the distance. This stretch has got little wine villages. Here we are entering St. Goar. Generally, the area between Koblenz and Mainz is this scenic part of the Rhine Gorge, and particularly the area between St. Goar, where we are now, and Bingen. It takes about 3 hours to go by scenic boat, and it's one of the most beautiful boat rides that you'll ever experience. Here's our Hawaii group waiting anxiously for the boat to arrive, and here we go. It's a big, comfortable ship. It's got 3 decks, it's got restaurants, there's wine and coffee and other refreshments served on board. They even have musical entertainment on board for you. Cast off the gangplank and away we go. The ship is very stable and comfortable. You can sit outdoors up on the deck and enjoy the fresh air and sunshine, or you can sit down below and enjoy the view through large picture windows. Either way, keep your cameras ready. There'll be lots of pretty pictures to be taken. One of the real treats of our trip is a boat ride on the Rhine River, which we're enjoying right now as we go from Bingen to Bacharach. You'll see all these beautiful castles and vineyards up on the hillsides on this lovely sunny day. Very mild climate today, must be about 70 degrees, very pleasant. And as we enjoy the beautiful scenery, you can see all the hillsides where they grow the Riesling grapes for the white wines of Germany. What a beautiful day. Many of the little villages have hotels like this right along the riverfront. The Berg Reichenstein Castle was first constructed around the year 900 and then rebuilt in the 19th century.
Of that same thing, different angle.
One of them will be better than all the others.
Well, I try to time the lighting, you know.
We're now approaching the town of Bacharach. Its important wood and wine trade in the old days, as well as its custom duties, made Bacharach one of the wealthiest towns of the region. One of the ways that these communities survived in the old days was by extracting tolls from the passing ships, and as well as growing the Riesling grapes you see growing here up behind the houses today. The wine industry is very important to the economy of the Middle Rhine area. They grow grapes for white wines as well as red wines here. The town fortifications of Bacharach date back to the 14th century, and they are among the best preserved in the Middle Rhine area. It's possible to walk along the whole length of the Sentry Walk on the Rhine front and see a half a dozen of the towers still fully preserved. And even the connecting wall to the castle is a kind of cornerstone, is still standing. The old customs house is there, the old St. Peter's Church in the distance, and there's many half-timbered facades of the buildings to be admired. The old post office, the old market square are some of the most noteworthy here in Bacharach. And then nearby we approached St. Goar on one side of the river, and its twin town on the other side of St. Gorshausen. Two of the more famous towns along this Middle Rhine. They're connected by a car ferry. They date back to the 8th and 9th centuries, and they too were fortified towns that were involved in production of wine and extraction of tolls from the passing ships. Twin towns formed a barrier across the river that collected duty on all goods passing through. And you'll notice up on the hillside the castle. This is the Berg, heavily fortified and defended on 3 sides by the natural cliffs. This further reinforced the rights to collect tolls and taxes and gave a high vantage point to see all the way up the river to the Lorelei, the Berg. You'll see lots of video cameras in your travels, but it's better to shoot with the smaller 8mm versions. They're easier to carry around. We're now approaching one of the most famous parts of the Rhine River, the Lorelei. You see here the large cliff. As we get our cameras ready to get some better views of the famous Lorelei Rock. This is actually the tallest cliff along the gorge of the River Rhine. It towers about 400 feet high. Sailors used to look up at the rock to catch sights of the charming maiden of the Lorelei, forgetting for just a moment the dangerous rapids and reefs, and their boats crashed to pieces and sunk beneath the waves forever. The Siren of the Lorelei. There's many legends associated with the Rhine River. In some other stories, the river is personified in the many shapes and forms in which flowing water may present itself to the imagination of people, as sprites and nymphs, coiling serpents, marine monsters, pixies and kelpies that sit on the riverbank combing their golden hair, while the woods and forests on the river's edge are populated by gnomes and dwarfs who mine the hills for gold and silver. Such fanciful flights of the imagination. There's train lines that run along the entire route of the Rhine River. You can certainly take a train if you'd rather get there quickly, and you can still see quite a few of the sights from the train, but there's nothing like catching these scenic highlights from the boat itself. Approaching the little town of Oberwesel, which snuggles into an opening in the Rhine Valley, towered over by its castle, the Schönberg, 1,000 years old. Oberwesel is still surrounded by a circuit of 13th and 14th century walls with 16 of its original 21 towers still intact, and its famous red church. The customs duties on the Rhine made Oberwesel one of the richest and most powerful villages of the region. The town itself is situated on the site of an old Celtic settlement that dates back to 400 BC, and it was a Roman military service point. You can actually get off the boat at these little towns if you wish to stay for a while. The Rhine River cruisers come by every couple of hours, and your ticket is good for all day. So you can get off at Oberwesel for a few hours, have lunch, walk around. Or better yet, if you have the Urail Pass, this train ticket is also good on the boats of the Rhine River on the KD line. So you can take a train part of the way and then catch the boat for part of the Rhine cruise. And remember, the most scenic parts of this Rhine cruise are between St. Goar and Bacharach, if you'd like to do just 2 or 3 hours of the most scenic highlights. If you have more time, then take the 7-hour cruise all the way from Koblenz to Mainz. Here we see Kaub, another old village that was formerly a toll collecting point and still is one of the leading wine towns of the Middle Rhine region. Kaub still has well-preserved medieval town walls, offering an attractive stroll along the wall walk. And above the town is the castle Berg Gutenfels. Kaub is most famous for this incredible castle that's right in the middle of the river. This small castle called Pfalz was built in 1326 to enforce the collection of tolls from river traffic, and it's the only existing structure of its type, with an elongated plan looking like a sturdy little warship right in the middle of the river. Especially interesting is the old castle dungeon, the floor of which could be raised and lowered depending on the water level. These river cruise ships are truly delightful with all the sights that they offer and the comforts, and of course they serve quite a few of the finest wines of the region, so you can have any of the different wines of the Rhine or the Moselle areas. The vines were first planted here by the ancient Romans, who showed the local residents here how to make wine, and they also showed them how to fortify their towns and villages. In this early medieval period, there was a lot of turmoil in the area because of robbers who would prey upon the merchants and travelers passing by. Once the castles were built, it became safer for travelers, but not necessarily cheaper, for they had to pay tolls along the way. There was a lot of conflict. There was 10 different places along this stretch of the river where tolls had to be paid. No wonder many a castle owner was called a robber baron. The trade flows much more freely today, with 9,000 barges delivering cargo up and down the river. Families live on these barges full-time. And of course, the tourist trade has come in force. Over the last 150 years, there's been millions and millions of fellow tourists who have enjoyed these beautiful sights. This is the end of our boat ride along the Rhine. It's been a fairly complete tour in our program. You've seen many of the little villages that dot this scenic stretch of the river. But every good trip must finally come to an end, with one final look around here in the little town of Assmannshausen.